Welcome to the Poetry Balls podcast with Tola. How are you doing? You okay? You alright over there? Are you worried about the Indian variant? Well, don't be, because, well, I'll protect you. I'll do what I can to protect you. Um, I've been vaccinated once, about to get my second one, so I'll be invincible at some point. So I'll be able to kind of like just stand in front of, COVID and shield you. So yeah, you're welcome. Oh, Israel Palestine. Yeesh, that's a lot. But I think I have a solution. And no, just hear me out. Hear me out. Right. So the thing is, food tends to unite people. And it so happens that the Jews have, great cuisine, and the Arabs also have great cuisine. If you just brought everyone together around a nice meal, cooked by, the Jews on one side, the Arabs on the other side, I think, try a bit of hummus. I think they both eat hummus. Do they both eat hummus? Someone eats hummus, so there's gotta be hummus at the table, and some, other Middle Eastern, you know, delicacies. I don't know that much, as you can tell. I do know that the food is great. I just can't name a lot of it, but that's besides the point. Unite them around a nice meal, and I mean, at least for like an hour, people will be eating, digesting the food. There'll be nothing. I mean, food is the great unifier, and yeah, that is an undisputed and indisputable fact. I happen to be Nigerian, and we make jollof rice, which is the greatest ever. And I don't care where you're from. If you eat jollof rice, you are happy for at least the duration of that meal. So maybe we should give the Jews and the Arabs some jollof rice just to pacify things for a little bit. Anyway, enough of that. Um, Here's the objective for the podcast moving forward. What I'm gonna try to do is analyze anything and everything that I can in search of inspiration. Hence the title, Finding Inspiration. And the topic for this episode is inflation. Wow, what a wonderful, engaging topic inflation is. But I'll try to do the best I can. What I want to do is define inflation, try to understand how it maps against the human experience, and I'm going to write a poem about it, which I'm going to post on my website along with the notes, so that it's kind of like a full circle. I don't want to spend 5-10 minutes reading and analyzing the poem that I wrote. I think that would be incredibly boring. Um, but what I'm going to try to do is define inflation, try to understand or extract some meaning out of it in terms of how it relates to human behavior. And yeah, I'll write a poem about it. And by the time this is posted, but by the time I've uploaded this podcast episode, you can kind of zip over to the website, read it, and you can tell me what you think or not, whatever. But that is how this is going to go. And hopefully you will be engaged by it, fulfilled, and, you know, uplifted. You feel like you can take on the world. I don't know. I don't know what that has to do with inflation, but anyway, we're going to give it a go. So I did some research into what inflation actually is defined to be. And of course, it's the internet, right? So you have a lot of people saying a lot of stuff. And my task simply was to find a unified definition, something that kind of just assesses the true meaning of inflation in the most straightforward way without all the jargon, right? So, inflation is an increase in the price of goods and services and a decrease in purchasing power, right? So, I think that kind of makes sense, hopefully. Here are the types of inflation: there's demand pull effect inflation. So, this is defined as an increase in the supply of money and or credit by monetary authorities like a central bank. So this is when money floods the society through printing of money, for instance, by the central bank. This leads to an increased demand for goods and services that then leads to an increase in prices. So hopefully that makes sense as well. I'll come back to all this just to, like I said, extract what I feel it's saying about human nature. Cost push inflation is another type of inflation. This is when there's an increase in the supply of money and the cost of production increases, leading to higher consumer prices. So everything seems to lead, the first two types of inflation seem to lead to an increase in consumer prices. The only difference with this one is that due to the influx of money in the society, production costs increase. So, for instance, if I make shoes, right, and the person who supplies the raw materials for those shoes hikes up the price, of course, I'm going to sell my shoes at a higher cost, at a higher rate, because I need to make my money back. So the demand, rather than the increase in cost or increase in prices coming from the demand the consumers create, it's coming from the production costs of those who produce the goods and services. So the first is customers have high demand for the product, therefore prices increase. The second one is cost push, which is caused by the increase in production costs, leading to consumer prices increasing. So if you're not getting any of this, then I feel sorry for you, but it's okay. Let's keep going. The third type of inflation is built-in inflation. So this is just, I suppose this is some sort of theory that assesses that people do expect prices to continue to rise in the future. It's just a basic concept that, you know what, if inflation occurs today and a bag of rice that used to cost 50p now costs a pound, if there's a deflation, maybe in 2 years' time, the price of the bag of rice would probably go down to maybe 80 or 90p, right? But of course, if there's another inflation cycle after the deflation, it's gonna be £1.10, something like that, right? So inevitably, it's like you take 5 steps forward, you take 2 steps back, then take 5 steps forward. So the price keeps increasing, even though it reduces due to deflation. You know, after the end of each inflation cycle. So why am I talking about this? All right, so like I said, finding inspiration is a concept I came up with because I wanted to be able to talk about different subject matters and try to glean some sort of understanding as to how humanity or human nature operates, what it says about the nature of being, whatever that subject matter says about the nature of being. And it's also a quintessential poetic endeavor to try to find inspiration in everything that you encounter, engage with. It's not just trees and birds and misery. Even though inflation is a sort of a miserable, uh, miserable activity that occurs. But yeah, it's poetic to kind of try to find inspiration everywhere. So, what does inflation say about our innate being? I think central to the concept of inflation is cost and effect. You know, if someone does something, this occurs. If this person does that, then this happens. So within inflation, when there's high demand for a good or service, the people who supply those good or services increase the price. So it's almost like a reaction, and it's almost a balancing act because if you take that example, for instance, the example of the shoemaker, right? You tend to sell your shoes at maybe £50 a pair, right? So for some reason, this particular year, the supplier of leather for your shoes decides to hike up his prices due to inflation. Of course, you're gonna have to sell your shoes at a higher price than 50 because you've spent more money than you're usually accustomed to just to buy the materials you need, and you need to make up that extra cost. So that's cause and effect. Something happens here, and it kind of has a ripple effect all across, right? The the chain, the supply chain, and that's true of everyday existence, right? So, for instance, if I do something I'm not supposed to do, like for instance, I'm waiting in a queue in front of everyone. Let's say there are five people behind me, and rather than placing my order quickly and stepping out of the way so that that line can move on, so that other people can also, place their orders. Time is of essence. Is of essence. They I kind of stand there and have a nice chat with, you know, the the staff member, the waiter, or waitress or whatever, for the politically correct. No, I'm just kidding. So you stand there and have a chat. You can't decide what you want. You're talking about your dog or your cat or whatever the hell it is that you do, and you keep that line waiting for a prolonged period of time. Well, that has an effect along that line because people get upset. Maybe someone leaves that line, so that's a reduced income for the restaurant, which is neither here nor there, but it is an effect. The point is cause and effect. Inflation reflects the cause and effect nature of reality. And I guess the other thing it does is also that I kind of noticed was, hey, numbers seem to be going up. They never really go down. I mean, there's some sort of deflation, like I said, intermittently. But by and large, I mean, if something cost £5 in 1975, it probably costs 15 today, or maybe something a little less. But you get the idea. There's an exponential increase over decades, So, yeah, what does that say about our existence? That it seems to be about more and more. Well, I mean, you just look at a regular person, right? You want more money to maintain a higher standard of living. Maybe we eat a little bit more than we ought to. We want to be happier. We want to be stronger. We want to be healthier. We want more. That's the nature of being. We want more. We're never satisfied. There's something inbuilt into the nature of reality that is continuous and desires more. So, yeah, that's what I got from inflation. I don't know. Is that interesting? I don't know. I mean, tell me what you think, because it's like you can. I see patterns. I think it's like kind of like a gift and a curse. You kind of see like, okay, this is one subject area, but it kind of maps against everything else because economics basically is the study of human behavior. It's a behavioral science because there is no economy without human transaction, right? So it's about transaction, it's about delayed gratification, it's about savings, it's about risk taking, it's about busts and booms and people doing what they shouldn't do, so being irresponsible and spending money that isn't theirs, taking out loans they shouldn't take out. It's just like human behavior. Like why would you do all that stuff, right? So there is a poem in there somewhere, and I'm gonna write it, and you're gonna hopefully read it and find it interesting. And if you don't, that's it. Look, it's okay. It's okay. I have thick skin. But it'd be nice to know what you think about this concept. I'm going to keep going because I do like it. I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, um, that's it for now. I don't want to ramble on too much. But I'll say in conclusion, we need to send jollof rice to Israel and Palestine. That's the only way. We've been at this for 3,000 years. We need to think outside the box here. You know what I'm saying? We need to do something a little different, right? So jollof rice, I believe, can save the world. And I think it can definitely save Israel and Palestine. So on that note, thank you for listening, and I'll check in on you next time. Peace.